Hey guys, tonight we're heading far off the grid so far, in fact, that the word grid hasn't even been invented yet. You're barefoot squinting up at a night sky so full of stars it looks like someone spilled glitter across a black bedsheet. There's salt on your skin, wind in your hair, and somewhere just beyond where your eyes can reach, there's land. Or at least that's what the elders say. You've just been handed a wooden paddle, a half-packed canoe, and instructions that sound suspiciously like metaphors. Feel the ocean's memory they told you. Right. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, you probably wouldn't survive 5 minutes in a real outrigger canoe without begging to check your phone for Google Maps. But lucky for you, this is just a story. Kind of. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from a beach hut, a city apartment, or a hammock in the Philippines, drop a comment with your location and the time right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drag your feet across the warm, creaking floor of the boathouse. It smells like salt fish oil and old decisions. Outside, the ocean keeps breathing its slow, steady rhythm, exhaling with waves that lick the shore, inhaling with the kind of patience that only ancient water can afford. Tonight, the elders have chosen you to prepare the canoe. You with the clumsy hands and the face that still sunburns after 10 minutes. You mutter to yourself as you check the ropes tight as jealousy. You rub oil into the hull's seams until your fingers smell like coconuts and hard work. A line of shells is tied along the bow, each one placed by someone who believed in this boat more than in luck. One of the shells even has teeth marks. Apparently someone got hungry or superstitious. Behind you, the old men sit in a lazy circle murmuring tales that sound like bedtime stories for sharks. One talks about a voyage where the water turned silver just before they found land. Another swears he once followed a whale's sneeze for 2 full days. Historians still debate whether that was metaphor or actual echolocation. Honestly, it could go either way. A woman walks up behind you and places something cold in your palm. A charm made of bone and coral, smooth from years of being gripped by nervous thumbs. For your dreams, she says, which is comforting if you plan to sleep. You don't. The stars are gathering like an audience. Orion isn't in the sky tonight. He's somewhere else sulking, or maybe playing dice with Saturn. But the canoe is here, solid, patient, waiting. You've named it Moana Kea, which probably means something majestic like ocean light, but could also translate to wet splinter, depending on your accent. You light a small fire just for warmth, not for show. Flames crackle like gossip. Smoke curls upward trying to tell the stars your plans. The elders say smoke always lies, but you hope this time it's just vague enough to confuse the gods. Your cousin, who thinks he's hilarious, jogs past wearing nothing but a sarong and a grin. Don't forget to wave at the sea turtles, he calls. They're your only audience until you find something with legs. You chuckle and pretend not to be nervous. Your stomach growls, but you ignore it. This is the night before departure, and the rule is no heavy food. Something about confusing the spirits or just avoiding seasick curry. So you nibble on dried breadfruit and pretend it's something fancy, like space food, which, when you think about it, is exactly what it is food for, launching yourself into a vast blue galaxy. You crouch beside the canoe and whisper your name into the wood. The elders say it's how the boat learns who it carries. You figure if it works for toddlers and teddy bears, it might work for tropical transport too. The ocean is flat now, unusually still. The kind of stillness that makes you feel like the world's paused and is waiting for you to hit play. Waves lap at the shore like they're curious, but not yet invested. You gather your gear, a carved paddle with notches for counting days, a tightly wrapped bundle of dry taro, a set of bird feathers for reading winds, and of course, a gourd of water blessed by a priest who might have been drunk on fermented coconut. His chant was slurred, but you figure hydration is hydration. Someone starts singing behind you, a low melodic hum that vibrates through your ribs. It's not meant for you. It's for the sea, the canoe, the moon. Still, it finds your ears and curls up there like a sleepy cat. The stars shift slightly as if settling into more comfortable seats. The chief appears last, barefoot as usual. He walks without sound, the kind of man who could sneak up on thunder. He doesn't speak at first, just stands next to you watching the water like it owes him money. "You're ready," he finally says. You nod even though you aren't. That's the trick. No one ever is. Not the first time. He hands you a small woven mat. For sitting, he explains, or panicking into. You both laugh, a soft, shared breath. Then he walks away. You stare at the canoe. It stares back. Well, not really. It's a boat. But still, you feel seen. Tomorrow, you'll push off into an ocean that doesn't care how poetic you're feeling. But tonight, the sea is quiet. The moon is playing nice. And somewhere in the dark, 1,000 miles away, is land that wants to be found. You just have to listen. You wake up before the birds, not because you're eager, but because the mosquitoes had a midnight rave near your ear and you spent the last hour swatting at shadows. The sky is still bruised with early twilight. Everything's quiet, almost suspiciously, so like the island is holding its breath to see if you'll actually go through with this. You roll up the mat, which you did end up panicking into a little, and pat the canoe affectionately. The tides come in, lapping closer to the hull, like it's giving you a gentle nudge. Time to go, it says. No more delaying. I cleared my whole schedule for you. Your canoe groans as you slide it forward, not in protest, more like an old man waking from a nap. You dig your heels into the sand push with your back, and whoosh, the ocean catches it like a catcher with surprisingly soft hands. You're in? You step in after it, trying not to fall over like last time. The water's cold around your ankles, and the canoe rocks a little as you find your balance. You breathe, then you sit. And just like that, you've left the land behind. No ceremony, no drum beats, just you and the biggest mystery on earth. The sail unfurls with a sound like a sigh. It's a crab claw sail stitched from pandanus leaves and dyed with soot and seawater. You didn't make it, obviously. An uncle did one who hasn't smiled since the 1983 cyclone. But he weaves like the gods owe him a favor, and this sail catches wind like it knows secrets. Out on the open sea, the world changes fast. The land vanishes quicker than you thought it would. Turn around, and already your island is just a bump on the horizon, like a misplaced thought. You feel it before you see it, the shift. The way the waves stop bouncing offshore and start rolling in long, lazy swells, endless and unbothered. The canoe hums beneath you, a creak here, a groan there, as if it's muttering old sea jokes under its breath. You run your fingers along the side, feeling where wood meets ocean. You start to realize something. The canoe isn't just a boat, it's a translator. You speak land, but it speaks water. It's trying to teach you. You just have to shut up and listen. You remember what your uncle told you as he slapped you upside the head with a fish last week? Don't just ride the waves, he growled. Read them. At the time, you were more concerned with fish scales in your hair. But now, it makes sense. The waves aren't random, they're messengers. Long waves mean steady swells from a distant storm. Choppy ones mean something's close reef island or trouble. And the crosshatch ones, oh, those are tricky. They mean waves are bouncing off something nearby. Something solid. Land, maybe. Or a whale having an existential crisis. You lie flat in the canoe, spine against wood, staring up at the ceiling of clouds. Your eyes close because, apparently, your ears and bones need a turn. This is the ancient method. No screens, no sonar. Just the way your body dips, rolls, and vibrates. At first, it's chaos. Everything feels like everything. But then slowly, the rhythm settles. Your arms sway slightly out of sync with your feet. Your head pulses just a little differently than your chest. Each part of you is catching a separate whisper. You're a human radio tuning through a dozen wave stations until click. You feel it, a gentle bump beneath the regular sway, a tiny double tap, like someone knocking once. Then again, reflected swell, you murmur. You sound way cooler than you feel. That bump could mean there's an island up ahead, or a sandbar, or a really bored dolphin. Historians still debate whether the most accurate traditional navigators could actually map whole archipelagos from this alone, or if they were just really good guessers. You kind of hope it's the latter. That means you've got a shot. The sun starts climbing, now dragging its orange skirts across the water. You squint. The light makes everything too obvious. The magic is in the dark. But you pull out a sliver of dried fish and chew anyway. It tastes like old socks marinated in salt, but it does the job. Suddenly, a flying fish leaps over your canoe, smacks you in the forehead, and flops back into the sea like it just punked you on purpose. You swear at it, PG-13 style. Maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's revenge. Either way, your forehead's wet. You sit up and let your eyes adjust. There's nothing but water, waves in every direction. You think about that coconut charm in your pocket and wonder if it's doing anything besides weighing you down. Off to your right, a lone seabird glides low over the surface, wings slicing the air like scissors. It's a frigate bird, the kind that sleeps while flying, which honestly sounds like a party trick, but is totally true. You watch it circle once, twice. Then it changes direction. You lean toward that side, just a little. The bird might know something. You shift your paddle not to steer, but to feel the resistance in the water. There's a change. Not huge, but real. Like the ocean just got a little denser, as if it's thinking about something it forgot. You note it. Another hint. All this, and you've only been out a few hours. You're not quite a navigator yet. You're more like a mildly aware sea potato. But hey, you're floating, you're learning, and you haven't capsized. That's a solid start. And as the sky brightens to a soft blue and the wind nudges your sail like a sleepy dog, you can't help but smile. Not because you know where you're going, but because somehow you know the ocean wants you to keep going. The sky is fully awake now, and with it comes the kind of sun that doesn't ask permission. it just shows up and starts burning. You slap some oil on your arms, the traditional kind made from crushed nuts and boiled bark that smells like old memories and mosquito repellent. It doesn't have SPF, but it does make you look shiny, which has to count for something. The ocean stretches around you endless and annoyingly consistent. At some point, you realize you're no longer checking for land. You're checking for anything. A bird, a cloud, a piece of driftwood shaped like Elvis. Anything to break up the blue. That's when your teacher appears? Well, not literally. He's probably back home, sipping fermented kava and betting on how far you'll make it before turning back. But his words echo in your head the way only stubborn mentors do. Don't chase what you can see, he once said, while poking your chest. Chase what you feel, and not with this poke, but with this. That last part came with a slap to the heart and another fish to the face. Apparently, seafood assault is part of the curriculum. You lie down again, flat across the canoe's ribs, arms relaxed, eyes closed. The creaking wood beneath you is your only bed, and the ocean is your mattress. Surprisingly, it doesn't suck. The canoe rises and falls with long, lazy breaths, like it's dozing. But there's more beneath the calm. Tiny shifts, tugs, nudges. You're starting to feel the swell difference, like how the canoe rocks just a hair faster every eighth wave, or how it tips one way when a second hidden swell crosses beneath it. You're tuning in. Swells travel for hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles from storms you'll never see. They pass through each other like ghosts, stacking or canceling, bouncing off underwater ridges or distant islands. And just like that, they become navigators' fingerprints. Unique, identifiable, weirdly personal. You open your eyes and sit up blinking against the light. The ocean's not still, but it's steady. The swell you're riding now is long, deep, and patient like a monk doing yoga. But beneath it, you notice a flicker of motion at a different angle. A second swell, shorter, more hurried, almost like it's trying to cut in line. That's when you feel it, the pulse of interference. Not enough to throw you off balance, but enough to make your shoulder twitch. You've found a crossing swell, maybe two. Your canoe shifts in response, not dramatically, just a subtle shimmy that says, pay attention. You run your fingers in the water. It's slightly cooler than before, and the wind has changed direction only by a whisper, but it's a whisper worth listening to. You reach for the banana leaf you've been using as a star map. Useless now, obviously, it's daytime, and the leaf has started to curl like it's done with your nonsense. But you hold it anyway, just to remind yourself of the bigger picture. The stars told you where to start. The waves will tell you where to go. You start paddling again, not to speed up, but to shift your angle slightly. Let the longer swell carry you, but lean into the crossing one. It's like trying to balance two conversations at once, tricky but possible, especially if you're nosy. The sun climbs higher and you catch your reflection in the water. You look like someone who's been up all night doing interpretive dance on a rocking chair. Your hair's a mess. Your eyes are bloodshot and your posture says existential crisis. But you feel something else too. Confidence. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, like a coin tucked into your pocket for luck. Then a shadow moves under your canoe. You freeze. It's big. It's slow. It's not a shark, not unless sharks have learned how to glide with dramatic flair. A manta ray. Massive. Elegant. It passes beneath you like a rumor, wings wide, tail trailing the kind of creature that probably has its own constellation. You watch it go heart-thumping. The ocean is full of things older and smarter than you. This is one of them. Further out, you spot a line of clouds on the horizon. Not storm clouds, those puff up and flex like they're showing off. These are low, flat, and oddly tidy, like someone carefully parked them there. You grin. That's an old sign. Islanders say clouds like that rest above land cooled by moisture rising off vegetation. Cloud hats, basically. If clouds had fashion shows, these would win best dressed. A sudden gust pulls your sail tighter. The canoe leans forward like it's sniffing something familiar. Then a bird, a white tern. You track its flight pattern, not random. It's moving in wide loops, but always returning to the same spot. You know what that means. Nesting range. Birds this far out don't waste time flying for fun. If it's circling, it's guarding something. And that something might be an island. You squint. There's nothing to see, just ocean. But you trust it now, the patterns, the signs, the shadows. The sea is no longer a mystery. It's a mood swing with hints. You let the sail do the work, lean back, and let the canoe follow its curiosity. You still don't know exactly where you're going. But for the first time, that doesn't scare you. The ocean has started talking, and you miraculously are learning to listen. The ocean doesn't speak in sentences, it mumbles, it repeats itself, it trails off mid-thought. And if you interrupt it, gives you nothing but silence. But if you're patient, if you sit there long enough with your eyes squinted and your ears tilted like a confused seagull, it starts to make a kind of sense. By now your canoe is riding a rhythm that wasn't there yesterday. The swell beneath you feels textured. That's the best word for it. Not bumpy exactly, just layered. Like someone's woven 2 or 3 sea patterns into one. The boat rocks slightly off beat now like it's dancing with 2 left feet, but you recognize the move. You've heard about this from the elders. They call it telapa, the light. A shimmer under the water that shoots out from islands in sharp, straight lines visible only at night and only to the very few who know how to watch. It's not made of stars, and it's definitely not your imagination. Scientists have tried to explain it with theories about bioluminescence or wave diffraction, but none of that matters to you right now, because you're starting to feel it. Not see, feel. You reach over and dip your hand into the sea again. The current grabs your fingers with a little more urgency, like it's got somewhere to be and wants you to come along. You pull the sail slightly to the left. Just a hair. Just enough. A bird squawks above your head and dives. Not for food, for fun, probably. But it reminds you that you're not alone out here. The sky is full of creatures that know things you don't. The ocean, too. You're the only one still figuring it out, and the ocean is kindly pretending not to laugh. You glance at the horizon, squinting until your forehead folds like a concertina. Nothing, no land, no sign. Just that strange shimmer again, more imagined than seen, like catching something in your peripheral vision and then doubting it was ever there. Your teacher once said that good navigators never chase what they see. They sail toward what they almost see. It sounded infuriatingly vague at the time. Now it feels like prophecy. You lean your body left again, just slightly testing the swell. The interference is still there, consistent. There's a rhythm, 1-2 pause, like a heart that's skipping on purpose. You lie back once more, let your head rest on your rolled-up cloak, and let your body do the listening. That's when the wave hits. Not a big one, not scary, but different, sharper, like someone poked the ocean with a stick. You sit up, pulse quickening. You've crossed into a new wave pattern, one that seems to be bouncing off something solid. You glance at the bird again. It's circling wider now, calling out like it just remembered something important. And then there it is, the scent. It's faint, fainter than faint. You couldn't describe it if you tried. Not salty, not floral, just alive, like wet bark, like distant earth, like a place that isn't water. You inhale again just to be sure. And yep, there it is. Something's out there. Your heart does a little flip, the kind you get when you spot someone waving at you in a crowd and realize they're actually waving at someone behind you. You double check. No, it's not a trick. It's real. There's an island somewhere upwind. Your hand shakes as you reach for the paddle. It's not fear. It's adrenaline mixed with the ancient and totally justifiable human excitement of not dying alone at sea. You start counting wave pulses. Each one has a personality now. Some are smooth talkers rolling under the boat like compliments. Others jab at you, insistent and rushed. You try to match their tempo. There's a pattern here, a story. You just have to stay awake long enough to finish it. But you are tired, not just sleepy tired, bone tired, soul tired. Your arms feel like boiled taro, and your eyelids weigh roughly as much as a large coconut. Still you paddle, because you've come this far, because the ocean hasn't spit you out, because that shimmer, real or not, is calling your name. Your stomach growls loudly. The fish jerky you packed earlier is gone, and you're not quite desperate enough to eat one of your sacred feathers yet. You sip water from your gourd, which tastes slightly like moldy hope, but does the job. The sun is sinking now, staining the sky with orange and pink, like the gods just spilled their tea. You watch it melt into the water, then glance back at your tiny sail glowing with the last gold light. You think about home, not with longing, but with awe. It's still there, still waiting. But you're not the same as when you left. The canoe creaks beneath you. You mutter something appreciative to it. Maybe it's a thank you. Maybe it's a bribe to hold together a little longer. The wind shifts just slightly, but enough to say closer, and you smile. Because now you believe it too. Night comes faster on the ocean. There's no warning bell, no polite dimming of the lights, just a blink. And suddenly, the sun is gone, and you're wrapped in velvet darkness. You adjust your sail by instinct, now hands moving like they've been doing this for years instead of hours. The wind's cooler, steadier. It has purpose. It knows something you don't, and you're starting to trust it. The stars return like an encore brighter than any city will ever let them be. They scatter across the sky with reckless artistry, some sharp and white, others smudged like charcoal. Above your head, the Milky Way stretches like a cosmic river, and part of you wonders if it's also pointing toward land. Maybe everyone's trying to find something out here. You pull out your banana leaf star chart, now dry and curled like a dead insect. Not very helpful. So you look up instead, eyes squinting for the familiar triangle of Sirius Betelgeuse and the twins. You find it. That same pattern your teacher made you memorize by lying on your back for hours while ants explored your ears. At the time, it felt like cruel and unusual punishment. Now, it's salvation. You steer by the stars to Lanny. Not because you know exactly how, but because your canoe seems to. The sail adjusts slightly when you shift your weight. The hull leans into turns you don't remember initiating. You wonder if it's guiding you rather than the other way round. A gust of wind rattles the sail. Then silence again. It's not calm out here, it's expectant. Like the sea is leaning in, waiting to see what you'll do next. You tighten your grip on the paddle. You try to remember the feel of the reflected swells from earlier, the gentle tug of an island's presence, like a held breath somewhere beneath the water. Then comes the bird. Again, the same white tern. Or maybe its cousin. It appears out of nowhere, gliding low across the canoe. You duck instinctively, always the right choice when beaks and momentum are involved. But you watch it carefully. This time, it doesn't circle. It flies straight, purposeful, toward something. You glance in that direction and there, a smudge. You blink. You rub your eyes. Nope, it's still there. It's not a cloud, not a wave. It's a different kind of darkness, deeper, rounder, a dome of shadow that interrupts the horizon, a small lump where the ocean should be flat. You nearly laugh. You'd cry, but you've already lost enough water to sweat and sun. You reach for the paddle and guide the canoe gently toward that shadow. You don't say anything, not to the canoe, not to the bird, not even to yourself. You just go. But the ocean doesn't make it that easy. Of course not. The wind dies suddenly like someone pulled the plug. Your sail droops. The canoe slows. A moment ago, everything felt like a song. Now it feels like awkward silence after someone tells a bad joke. You sigh. You pick up the paddle. Every stroke feels heavier than the last. Your muscles ache. Your shoulders creak. The paddle slaps the water in tired rhythm. Shloop, shloop, shloop. You count each one not to keep pace but to stay awake. Somewhere in the back of your mind you remember that strange technique your cousin swore by slapping your face every 100 strokes. You're not above it. You do it. By the time you reach what looks like the outer edge of the shadow, the stars have shifted again. The moon finally peaks above the horizon like it overslept. Its pale light spills across the water and catches something new, a line of drift, floating debris, bits of palm fronds, a broken coconut, seaweed that doesn't belong out here. You're close, so close. You stop paddling. You let the canoe drift. You listen, and then you feel it again, that double pulse, the heartbeat of reflected swell. Stronger now, not subtle, not hidden. Like the ocean itself is yelling, "It's right there, dummy." You chuckle softly. Then you apologize to the sea, to the canoe, to your arms. That's when your nose catches something again, a smell, stronger this time. Not the faint, earthy ghost from earlier. This is fresh, alive, green. It smells like wet leaves and soil, like fire pits, like the breath of trees, land. You don't cheer. You don't jump up. You just breathe in that scent like it's oxygen and smile so wide it creases your sunburn. The island's not visible yet, not fully, but it's close enough that the ocean's mood has changed again. The swells are tighter now, curled like fists. The water's got attitude. It's warning you, we're not done. You nod. Understood. You adjust the sail one more time. Just a nudge, enough to catch the moon-kissed wind. The canoe leans forward. So do you. And together, you slide toward the unseen shore. The ocean doesn't give directions. But if you're quiet, patient, maybe a little sun-drunk, and willing to look like a complete weirdo lying flat on your back mid-sea, it gives something better. It gives you permission to arrive. The night deepens, and with it comes a strange kind of clarity. You'd think after hours of staring at water and sky, your senses would dull, but the opposite happens. You hear more now. The creak of the canoe, the hum of insects hitchhiking on your rigging, the hush of waves brushing against the hull like they're whispering gossip about your navigation skills. You're gliding forward slowly now. Not quite sailing, not quite drifting. It's like the canoe's gone into stealth mode. Every movement is smooth and intentional, as if it's trying not to wake the island ahead. You still haven't seen it fully, just that swelling of darkness. But everything around you confirms it's there. The waves are refracting differently. The birds are more frequent now, flashes of wings and sudden cries. You spot two flying in tandem and vanish into the gloom ahead. You know what that means? Nesting sites, ground, trees. You keep low in the canoe, careful not to overbalance. The moonlight helps, but just barely. It turns everything silver and strange, like you're paddling through a dream. The water ripples gently beneath you, and every now and then you catch glimpses of tiny fish darting away. Even they seem to know you're close. Then, without warning, a splash off your right side. Big, loud, definitely not a fish. Your heart jumps. You clutch the paddle like it's a sword. You peer over the side, but the moon's playing coy again, tucking behind a cloud just as things get interesting. Then another splash, this time farther away, and a low, groaning sound that seems to rise from deep beneath the water. A whale, maybe a sea turtle with indigestion, could be anything. You don't panic, mostly because you're too tired, and also because the canoe isn't panicking either. And if your boat isn't screaming, neither are you. Still, you grip the charm around your neck. The bone and coral one the village healer gave you, along with that suspicious look, like you're definitely going to need this. You whisper a quick word to it just in case. The moon returns, and this time it brings friends. You spot the faintest shimmer of mist above the water, hanging like a veil. That's when you realize it's not just mist. It's tree breath. Leaves exhaling. Island lungs. You're smelling the exhale of something alive. And then there it is. Not a smudge, not a shadow. An outline. Faint, gentle, but real. The silhouette of palm trees, their tops combed sideways by the wind. A dark shoreline arcing out like an arm. And at its feet, the white glint of surf, breaking against reef. You made it. Well, almost. You adjust the sail again, feeling the way the wind is changing, now warmer somehow. You angle toward the break in the reef. Your teacher warned you about this. You can find an island, but if you hit the reef instead, all you'll discover is how many ways you can scream underwater. Thanks, Uncle. So, you slow down. You paddle carefully, eyes scanning the water for signs of danger, foam lines, floating debris. The telltale rise of a submerged coral spine just beneath the surface. And then you spot it, a narrow passage through the reef, barely wide enough for your canoe, but calm and strangely clear. Like the island has opened a door just for you. You drift in. The sound changes immediately. The crashing waves are behind you now. Inside the lagoon, it's quiet. Still, the water flattens out glassy and smooth. You let the paddle rest across your lap and just breathe. You made it. The island rises ahead of you. No torches, no welcoming committee. Just darkness, trees, and the thick scent of green life. And yet, you feel welcome, like the island's been waiting. You remember something the chief said once during one of those half lectures, half warnings. He liked to give over dried octopus snacks. A real navigator doesn't claim land. He greets it, like an old friend who never needed to be found, only remembered. You smile, because now you get it. You guide the canoe gently toward the shore. The bottom starts to scrape on soft sand, a gritty purr that tickles your ears. You step out carefully, feet sinking into wet ground, legs wobbling like you've just learned how to walk again. The air smells like soil, sweet fruit, and salt. You reach down and grab a handful of sand just to be sure it's real. It is, and it's warm. A crab scuttles sideways past your foot like it has somewhere very important to be. You watch it go, then sit down in the shallows, the water lapping gently at your knees. You don't rush to explore. You don't need to. You'll do that in the morning. Right now, it's enough just to know the ocean let you pass, that it whispered its secrets and you listened, that you crossed a world without a map, using only swell stars and a boat that seems to have a better memory than you do. You look up one last time. The stars are shifting again, slowly, quietly, and for once, you're not looking for directions. You're just watching. The dawn sneaks up on you, not with a grand fanfare or glorious explosion of color, just a softening of the dark. A gentle blue smear across the horizon, as if the night reluctantly handed over the brush. You wake with your cheek against damp sand, a palm frond stuck to your forehead like a makeshift tribal tattoo. You peel it off, sit up, and stretch. Everything cracks. Shoulders, knees, pride. You're sore in places you didn't know had names. The canoe rocks gently in the shallows, bobbing like it's proud of itself. You pat its side, whispering something grateful and vaguely apologetic for all the times you cursed it under your breath. A breeze tousles your hair. It smells faintly of hibiscus salt and damp wood, and yep, somewhere nearby, something is definitely rotting. Welcome to land. You stand and take your first proper look. The island is small, but dense, overgrown in the kind of way that says, we weren't expecting visitors, but sure come in, wipe your feet. Tall palms wave lazily above your head. There are thick ferns, vines curled like gossip, and birds already screeching their opinions of your outfit. You don't rush inland. A good navigator doesn't just land and stomp around like a toddler in new shoes. First, you observe. So you squat on the sand, ignoring your protesting knees, and start watching the water. The lagoon is still, too still, which means reef. You glance back toward the opening you came through, just a narrow break in the ring of coral. You realize how lucky you were. Had you come at a different tide or caught one gust too many, you'd be decorating a rock with your canoe shards by now. You turn your gaze to the sky. The sun is climbing, but not fast. The kind of sunrise that feels like a friend pulling up a chair beside you instead of yelling, "Good morning," in all caps. You reach for your pouch and pull out the stick chart you packed, the one your uncle carved by hand. It looks like a tangled mess of bent twigs and knotted coconut fiber, but now you see it differently. Each curve is a wave pattern. Each shell marks an island. It's less of a map and more of a story one told through movement and memory, not lines and labels. You spread it on your lap, tracing your journey with your fingers. This part here, that must have been where the cross swell hit. And this curve, maybe that was the wind shift. You chuckle to yourself, remembering how confused you were at first. Now it all looks obvious, like those pictures that make no sense until you stare long enough, and suddenly it's a horse. A bird lands nearby. Not one of the seabirds you saw before, but a smaller one, bright green with a yellow beak. It hops, once inspects you, then flies off like it's disappointed. You get it. You haven't showered in 3 days, your hair is doing its own experiment in vertical defiance, and you're covered in a film of salt sand and stubbornness. But here's the thing. You made it. You did the impossible. You crossed open water with nothing but wave stars and a canoe held together with rope and well-placed prayers. You didn't cheat. You didn't panic, well, not out loud. And now you're here. You pull out a small piece of charcoal and start marking the inside of your canoe, just a simple line curved slightly with a dot where the island would be. Your first chart, your own memory made visible. It's not pretty, but it's yours. A soft crunch behind you makes you spin. You freeze. There, just beyond the tree line, is a hut, worn, leaning slightly, but definitely human-made. Smoke curls lazily from a pit outside. Someone lives here, or lived here. You squint. A faded fishing net flaps in the breeze. No footprints in the sand. No voices. You don't move closer, not yet. Instead, you think about what the elders say. Never arrive as a conqueror. Arrive as a guest, even if no one's home. So you walk to a nearby tree, gather 3 smooth stones, and place them in a triangle on the sand. An old symbol traveler's sign. It means you come in peace, that you respect the land, that you waited for permission even if no one was around to give it. You feel something shift inside you, a quiet pride, a connection, like your bloodline just nodded. The sun rises higher. Birds argue in the canopy. You take one last look at the sea, now glowing gold and blue. The canoe rests in the water, ready but unbothered. It knows you'll go back one day, but not yet. You step away from the shore into the island's shade and smile, because this journey isn't over, not even close. You're just learning how to listen. So here you are, a few coconuts wiser and several sunburns deeper, standing on new soil that doesn't know your name yet. You step carefully through the undergrowth, avoiding roots that look like they'd enjoy tripping you, and leaves that might be planning a rash. The air is thick, not hot, just heavy, like it's holding its breath, waiting to see what kind of visitor you'll be. You follow a narrow path, barely visible beneath layers of fallen leaves and broken twigs. It winds between trees that seem to lean in a little curious, but not unfriendly. You imagine them whispering to each other. New one. Smells like fish. Might be a talker. Ahead, the old hut you saw earlier becomes clearer. It's not much, just woven walls, a thatched roof, and a wooden frame bleached gray by sun and rain. A fishing spear leans beside the doorway, its tip still sharp, its shaft wrapped in old twine. You approach, slowly stepping loud enough not to startle any ghosts, but quiet enough not to scare off your own courage. The hut is empty. No bones, no banana peels, just silence and dust. You step inside and sit cross-legged on the woven mat left behind. Someone lived here once, someone who knew how to build shelter from branches and make peace with isolation. You trace the patterns etched into the floor with your fingertips. Spirals, stars, wave lines. This was a wayfinder's home. A gust of wind slips through the gaps in the wall, tugging at your hair like an affectionate sibling. You smile and let it. Then you lean back and rest, letting the hut hold you for a while. Your bones are grateful. Later, when the sun has claimed its throne directly overhead, you wander the island a little further. It's not large. You reach the far side in 20 minutes, where the land rises slightly into a hill. From the top, you see it clearly reef around the perimeter, thick jungle in the middle, two lagoons shimmering like twin mirrors. It's beautiful in a wild, uncombed hair kind of way, and then you spotted another canoe, much older than yours. Half buried in sand, near the shore, its hull cracked, its sail long gone. You climb down and approach it reverently like you're walking toward a monument. The wood is soft with rot. Shells have taken up residence inside. You kneel beside it and run a hand along its edge. Someone else arrived here long ago. Maybe they stayed. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they too were trying to prove they could read the waves trace invisible swells and land somewhere that hadn't asked to be found. A small carving catches your eye near the bow, a symbol. It looks like a turtle coiled inside a spiral kahonu, the turtle of navigation. You smile. You've seen this symbol before etched into stone back home. It means journey, not just travel. The kind of journey where your soul moves not just your feet. You sit there for a long time just watching the sea. The reef sparkles like it's winking at you. The wind ruffles the trees. You hum a little tune your grandmother used to sing when shelling beans. It fits here somehow. Eventually, you return to your canoe. It's right where you left it, bobbing gently, completely unbothered by your emotional walkabout. You check it over. No cracks, no leaks. The paddle is still inside the gourd, half full, the feathers undisturbed. It's ready if you are, but you're not yet. You take one of your charms, the small one carved from driftwood, and place it on the prow of the canoe. A thank you, a promise, a small mark that says, I was here. I listened. As the sun dips lower, you decide to make camp by the beach. You gather dry sticks, dig a shallow pit, and light a fire using the old friction method. It takes forever. You curse, you sweat, you almost give up, and then poof, flame. You grin like you've invented electricity. The fire crackles happily as night returns. You roast a handful of breadfruit over the embers, burning half of them because you got distracted watching the stars again. You lie back against a rock, chewing the edible half and watching the constellations march across the sky. You can name a few now, not just the obvious ones, the real ones, the ones the sea followers knew. Temangaroa the shark, Namahina the moons. You imagine your teacher sitting beside you, probably pretending not to be impressed. He'd grunt, say something like, still paddling like a tourist. But you'd see it, the twinkle in his eye, the pride he hides behind grumpiness. You reach for your star chart again. This time, you don't need it. You know where you are, and more importantly, you know how you got here. The island wakes you up before the sun does. You don't remember falling asleep one moment. You were watching the fire crackle and thinking about constellations in the next. You're groggily blinking at a sky still deep purple with just a whisper of dawn smudged along the edge. The air is cooler now, not cold, just brisk enough to remind you you're alive and still slightly damp from lying in sand. You sit up, stretch, and hear every joint in your back file a complaint. Your fire has died down to soft embers still glowing like lazy fireflies. You poke them a bit, coaxing out a few sparks. They snap and crackle, unimpressed with your efforts. You leave it alone. It's not like you're making espresso out here. Today's task is different. You're not just trying to survive. You're trying to understand. Because last night, before you drifted off, you noticed something. The water inside the lagoon moved weird. Not random. Not just from the tide. It pulsed. Like it remembered the ocean beyond the reef. And now, curiosity won't let you ignore it. You wander down to the shoreline. The sky is lightening now, slow and syrupy. You wade into the shallows, barefoot water swirling around your ankles. You stop. Then you do what you were taught. You close your eyes. Let your arms fall to your sides and just feel. There it is again, that double rhythm. Faint, rhythmic. The kind of wave pattern that doesn't belong in a closed lagoon. It's the echo of open sea swell reflected through reef openings, bent around corners, bouncing across the lagoon's curved walls. It's like the ocean is whispering in here, repeating messages only the lagoon understands. You sit down right there in the water, fully clothed, like some kind of extremely casual mystic. You breathe, you listen, and you start to hear patterns, longer rolls, shorter beats, tiny wavelets that interrupt the rhythm like someone tapping a finger in thought. And then you get it. This lagoon is a model of the world outside, a small enclosed map made of water and motion. That's what the old navigators meant when they said you could read swells in your sleep. This is how they practiced inside reef-protected coves, tuning their bodies to the language of waves before ever setting foot in open water. You grin, because now you got a new trick. You spend the rest of the morning exploring the island's edges. It's not big enough to get lost on, but just big enough to feel like you could keep discovering things forever. You find more signs of the one who came before you. A stone bench, half buried in vines, carved markings along a tree trunk, faded lines in sets of 5, probably tally marks, counting days, or journeys, or storms. You touch the lines gently, and a strange thought hits you. Maybe you weren't the first to land here accidentally on purpose. Maybe you're part of a quiet tradition. Wayfinders who didn't need to claim islands, only borrow them for a while. Later, while stripping bark for cordage and pretending you know how to weave something useful, you remember something else your teacher said: sleep while reading the ocean. Dream in waves. If you're lucky, the ocean dreams back. At the time, you were sure he was just being poetic because the village school inspector was visiting. But now, it clicks. So that afternoon you decide to try it. The weirdest part of traditional navigation training, the sleep test. You paddle your canoe gently back out into the lagoon. Not far, just enough to feel the open water's rhythm return. You let the sail down, let the canoe drift. Then you lie on your back, arms out, eyes closed, and you wait. The motion comes first. That slow lift, then drop. Over and over, then a shift side to side, a rocking, almost like a cradle. Then something else in interference, a pattern crossing the original one. You let your body follow the dance. You stop trying to figure it out and start letting it move through you. And slowly you doze off, not fully, just into that in-between state, the twilight between awareness and dreaming. And there, in that soft underwater world of semi-consciousness, you feel something strange. Direction. You can't explain it. You just know it. The way your hip tilts ever so slightly to the left. The way your shoulder floats lower than the other. The way your toes feel the swell arriving before your back does. Your whole body becomes a compass. A weird, salty, sunburned compass. And it works. You wake with a start as a fish leaps nearby and splashes your leg. You sit up disoriented, but smiling, because you were right. It does work. Maybe not enough to guide a fleet through a typhoon, but enough to whisper, "This is north, that is home. This is the path your ancestors felt in their bones." You paddle back to shore not with urgency, but with something new, confidence. Not loud, not arrogant, quiet, deep, like the swell under your canoe. That night back on shore, you carve a new mark into your canoe, a small crescent shape, the sign of sleep knowledge. You place it beside the first one you etched. Then you lie back again, your head resting on rolled-up cloth, the stars wheeling overhead like they always do. And for the first time since setting out, you realize you're not trying to get somewhere anymore. You're exactly where you need to be. Days blur a little, the way they tend to when you're living on island time, no clocks, no alarms, just the sun bossing everyone around with increasing confidence. You wake when the light tells you to sleep, when the stars start sparkling too smugly to ignore and eat, whenever your stomach begins composing a sad little drum solo. You've become something else out here. Not quite a castaway, not quite a tourist. Something in between. A guest of the sea, maybe. An intern for the island. You've developed routines as all creatures do. Mornings are for checking the reef, the tides, the cloud patterns, the way foam curls around the rocks. Afternoons are for practice. You paddle back and forth in the lagoon like someone training for the world's slowest race, learning to feel wave interference through your knees, your back, even your fingernails. You're getting good. Not great, but solidly okay, and okay might be all you need. The hut has become home. You've swept it, patched a corner of the roof, even rigged a crude wind chime from shells and bits of old netting. It clinks quietly when the wind shifts, like it's trying to harmonize with your thoughts. You're not even sure who you're fixing it for. Yourself, probably. Or maybe the next traveler who ends up here. Because something about this place demands respect, even in its emptiness. But with comfort comes a strange kind of restlessness. Because the signs have changed. You notice it one morning. The swell direction has shifted. Subtle at first, then undeniable. The breeze that used to come from the northeast now slants from the west, as if pushing gently on your shoulder every time you stand still. The birds behave differently, too, some flying inland at dusk instead of roosting along the shore. Even the smell in the air carries a faint edge of, not warning exactly, but invitation, like something is calling. You lie awake that night, staring up at the canopy of stars. You trace the familiar patterns, the triangle, the hunter, the great canoe. You whisper their names like passwords. Then you spot a new one, a faint arc of stars you hadn't paid attention to before. You squint, adjust, and realize it matches the wave pattern you've been feeling lately. Could be coincidence, but out here, coincidence doesn't exist. Only messages waiting to be noticed. So the next day, you prepare. Not a dramatic departure, no emotional speeches to the trees, just quiet decisions. You pack the canoe methodically, food, water, a second paddle, your stick chart, and of course, the carved charms you swore you wouldn't become emotionally attached to. But here you are treating them like sea-scented best friends. You check the hull for damage, run your hand along the seams, test the tension of the sail rigging. Everything holds. The canoe's ready. You stare at it for a while, unsure if you are. And that's when the horizon starts lying. It's not your imagination. It begins with shapes that shouldn't be there, a dark lump that looks like an island but turns out to be a low-hanging cloud. Then a cluster of birds circling nothing. Then, most cruelly of all, a shimmer that mimics land heat rising off the sea, only to vanish when you get close. The ocean's playing games. You push out anyway, because you're not guessing anymore. You're reading. The waves are subtle but legible. A long roll from one direction, a gentler push from another. They cross under your canoe like dancers who rehearsed all night. You lean into the motion. Trust your body. Trust the signals. A few hours pass. The sun's climbing again. Your back stings from yesterday's sun, and your legs have formed a permanent bond with the canoe floor. You chew a sliver of dried fruit and mutter complaints to no one in particular. Then comes a bird. Again. Of course it does. It's a brown noddy this time. Not flashy, not poetic, but fast. It zips past, veering to your left, then loops around and darts off again, beak pointed toward the horizon like it's got an appointment. You consider following. And that's when things get weird. You begin to feel land. No, not sea, not hear, feel. It's like the air is thicker, not in temperature, but in weight. Each breath feels denser. Each wave has more push. Even the light feels different, like it's bouncing off something just out of view. You close your eyes and let your fingers trail in the water. Then you feel it, that unmistakable double pulse, rhythmic, close, not faint like before. This one grabs your canoe like it knows your name. Your eyes snap open. You look ahead. Nothing. Then, a darker line, the kind you've learned to doubt. But this one doesn't waver, doesn't fade, doesn't duck under a cloud and vanish. It stays. You keep going, heart-thudding, paddle steady, closer, closer. And then the wind shifts. You inhale. There it is. Wet soil, blooming green, life. You laugh loud, awkward, a little unhinged. Your canoe rocks with the sound. You paddle faster now, not out of desperation, but with joy, with certainty. The ocean tried to mislead you, and you read it anyway. Historians still debate whether traditional navigators really sensed land before they saw it, or if it was just well-practiced guesswork and luck. But as you sail toward that rising shore feeling, the swells sing louder, the breeze tastes sweeter, and the world shifts to welcome you. You don't need history to agree. You already know it's true. You beach the canoe gently, as if trying not to wake the island. The bow kisses the sand with a soft hiss, and for a moment, everything goes still, like the world is holding its breath to see if you'll step ashore or just drift back into myth. You do step ashore, of course, because you're sunburned sore, and you've just spotted what looks suspiciously like a mango tree. Priorities. The sand here is paler, finer than the last islands. The wind carries the scent of unfamiliar flowers, sharp, sweet, and slightly smug, like it knows it's part of something you haven't learned the name of yet. This place feels newer, not untouched, but less used, like it was waiting for someone specific. You drag the canoe further up just past the tide line. You don't tie it down. If it wants to leave, it's earned the right. Besides, you've got charms tucked into its ribs and a quiet agreement carved into its hull. It won't go without you. The jungle beyond the beach is dense humming with unseen creatures. You take slow steps forward, parting vines, ducking branches, and occasionally muttering apologies to startled lizards. You're not here to conquer. You're here to listen. You find signs of life not human, but deliberate. Stones arranged in a spiral beneath a tree. Shells stacked neatly in a bowl-shaped depression. A trail worn into the undergrowth that curves too purposefully to be made by wild pigs. Someone has been here, or still is, but again the island is silent. No voices, no smoke, just breeze and birds and your own breathing. You sit beneath a tree, one of those wide-canopied giants with roots like furniture, and let your back rest against its trunk. The bark is warm, rough, and absolutely covered in ants. You leap up in a dignified panic and relocate to a nearby rock. Much better. You chew a strip of dried banana, sipping water from your gourd. You're not hungry, not really. Just maintaining the illusion of civilization. Your mind drifts. You think about what brought you here, not just the swells and stars, but the push behind the push. That thing inside you that needed to go. The curiosity, the itch, the gentle defiance, the need to prove something, even if it was just to yourself. Because no one sent you. You weren't assigned this route. There was no fleet, just one canoe, one paddle, one stubborn streak, passed down through half a dozen great-grandparents who probably had similar ideas and slightly less sunscreen. You remember the first time someone told you about wave reading. You were 6, bored, picking your nose in the back of a ceremony. An elder had pulled you aside, handed you a bowl of sticky breadfruit mash, and started talking about how you can feel islands through the ocean. You had nodded mostly because your mouth was full, but something stuck. Now here you are. The afternoon wears on. You do what navigators do best: observe. The sun angles west, and the shadows of trees stretch long like lazy cats. You walk the shoreline, noting driftwood patterns. You watch birds skim the water, eyes peeled for where they land. You feel the water again, tracing currents with your ankles. It's different here. Smoother, less fragmented. Like the ocean isn't bouncing off land, it's being invited. You wonder what the reef looks like, if it's shaped like a smile or a trap. You'll find out later. You mark your presence with 3 shells placed on a flat rock near the canoe. A signal, a story. I was here. I came gently. As twilight softens the sky, you set up camp. You stack driftwood into a careful fire pile, place stones around it, and even tie a charm above your head, a sliver of coral bound with string, for protection or decoration or both. You don't light the fire right away. Instead, you lie on your back, looking up through palm fronds at the sky beginning to twinkle, and you start to laugh, because for the first time you realize you don't know where home is anymore. Not exactly. The island you left feels like a dream. The one before this like a memory you borrowed. And this one, it doesn't belong to you, but it's real, present, breathing. You're not lost. You're just afloat in a wider definition of belonging. The fire crackles behind you now. You didn't mean to light it, but apparently your hands decided it was time. You watch the flames curl upward. The smoke spirals into the dark, and the stars blink unimpressed. You whisper a few words, not prayer, not spell, just thanks. For the canoe, for the sea, for your legs not giving out when you stood up earlier. Tomorrow maybe you'll explore further inland. You'll search for water, food, signs of other visitors. But tonight, you'll sleep near the canoe, just in case it dreams of sailing again. You wake before the fire dies. The embers are still glowing faintly like sleepy red eyes watching from under a blanket of ash. The sky hasn't yet decided what color to be, still hovering between slate and ink, with only the faintest promise of morning hiding at the edges. You roll over slowly, every muscle in your back filing a formal complaint. It's not the sand that's the problem. It's the fact that you've basically become part of the canoe now, physically and emotionally. You stretch, yawn, and immediately smack yourself in the face with a leaf. So you're awake, fully. Today, you're not just feeling the island, you're exploring it. You grab your pouch, your charm, and your slightly suspicious optimism and start inland. The jungle greets you the same way it always does, loudly and with questionable intent. The birds scream at you like gossipy uncles. The underbrush clutches your legs like it has abandonment issues, and the humidity wraps around your face like a damp towel. But you move through it, one careful step at a time. What you're looking for is unclear. Water, maybe, shelter, answers, but mostly you're hoping to find some trace of who came before you, because this island doesn't feel like it was waiting for its first visitor. It feels like it remembers someone. You stumble across a trail, not a path exactly, but a repeated flattening of ferns, the kind of thing that doesn't happen by accident. You follow it, brushing aside spider webs with the grace of someone pretending not to be terrified of spiders. And then there it is, a clearing, and in the middle of it, a platform. Not modern, not polished, just a low wooden structure, maybe 10 feet across, raised a few inches from the earth. It's lashed together with coconut rope, softened by age, bleached by sun. Around it lie old tools, shards of shellstone, blades, fragments of woven mat. And on the edge of the platform sits a single carved bowl filled with dried petals and charred ash. A hearth offering. You approach slowly. You don't touch anything, not yet. You just stand there, letting the space speak. It feels sacred, not holy exactly, but respected. Used by someone who didn't want to be remembered by name, just by presence. You sit. The wood creaks beneath you, but doesn't complain. You watch the jungle breathe, ferns unfurling, vines swaying, insects doing whatever it is insects do when humans aren't watching. And you think someone else sat here, watched these trees, listened to these same birds, slept near the same fire. Maybe they were running from something or searching for it. Maybe they were training or hiding or just floating like you somewhere between destinations. You remember something one of the older navigators said back home. A gruff guy with wind-burned cheeks and a laugh like gravel. He said, "Land isn't a finish line. It's just where your boat stops pretending." At the time, it sounded deep. Now, it sounds true. Because none of these islands, no matter how beautiful, how fragrant, how quietly alive, feel like endings. They feel like commas, places to breathe before continuing the sentence. You lie back on the platform, arms folded behind your head. A few leaves drift down from the canopy, one landing right on your face, because the forest has a sense of humor. You leave it there. The sun filters through the leaves above you in soft, dappled light, like the island is blinking slowly. Later, you return to the shore, and that's when you see it, floating gently in the lagoon, too far to touch, too perfect to ignore, a bundle of driftwood lashed together with fresh twine. It wasn't there before. You stand frozen, then wade out. The water laps at your thighs as you reach the bundle, and gently tug it to shore. Inside the bundle, dried taro, a small folded mat, and a charm, not yours. It's bone, carved into the shape of a spiral inside a circle. You hold it in your hand. It's warm, not just from the sun warm like it means something, and you realize someone else is out there, another navigator. You're not alone. You look out across the ocean. The waves are small today, rhythmic, soft, but they carry a message. You can feel it through the sand beneath your feet. You sit down beside your canoe and start carving. Not into the boat this time, but into the driftwood you just received. You add your own mark, a line of dots, a curve, a tiny wave. Your story in miniature. And then, without quite deciding to, you wrap the carving in palm leaves, lash it together with fiber, and push it gently back into the lagoon. Let it find the next one. Let them know the waves are speaking. We're still listening. The wind changes again. You don't notice it at first, just the usual morning breeze brushing your face as you stretch, yawn, and try to remember why your back feels like you slept on a pile of coconuts. But then your canoe shifts. Not a big move, just a slow, deliberate turn, like it's pointing. You stand and walk down to the shore. The sky is brushed with clouds shaped like sideways feathers, the kind that mean the weather's not interested in making things easy. The sea is glassy, but hiding something beneath small, tightly wound waves pushing in from a new angle. They're not angry, but they're definitely not aimless. The bundle you sent out yesterday is gone. You expected that. But what you didn't expect is the second one. Another driftwood package. New. Tucked gently into the reeds at the lagoon's edge, like it had been placed, not washed in. You wade toward it, heart thudding, in that mix of curiosity and mild panic, because who's playing ocean pen pal with you? Inside, you find a mat folded tighter than yours ever was, a shell pendant etched with a pattern of 6 pointed stars, and get this, a smooth black stone. Obsidian, volcanic glass, not from around here. You stare at it for a while, then laugh, because now it's a conversation, a slow-motion, saltwater telepathic conversation. Someone out there is reading the same waves, feeling the same swells, and answering. You look at your canoe. It's still turned toward the open sea, like it knows where to go next. But here's the thing you don't. Not exactly. Not the name. Not the shape of the island. Not even the direction in degrees. But the swells. Oh, the swells are singing again. You feel the pulse through your soles as you stand in the shallows. 1-2 pause. 1-2 pause. Not the same rhythm as before. A new beat. A new trail. It's like the ocean is laying breadcrumbs made of motion. You sit with your star chart, the one you've redrawn at least 5 times by now, because it's gone from being artistic to optimistic nonsense. But this time, the patterns make a little more sense. You trace a finger across the curves and think, if this is where I am and that's where the wave came from, then maybe you flip the chart over and start sketching again. This is your favorite part now, the in-between moment, the one right before the decision, the hum of potential. By late morning, you've packed again. The routine is easier this time. Everything has a place. You check the canoe's hull, now decorated with a dozen small carvings, waves, dots, stars, the occasional questionable animal shape that may or may not have been a chicken. Each mark is a breadcrumb of your own, a memory trail, a conversation with the future version of yourself who will one day forget this feeling and come looking for it. You offer one last nod to the trees, not a goodbye, just acknowledgement. Then you wade into the water, the canoe tugging forward eagerly like a puppy that smells adventure or possibly lunch. The moment the sail catches the wind, the feeling returns. That soft, firm pull in your chest, the one that whispers, "You're not done yet." The island recedes behind you slowly. No dramatic send-off, just palms swaying, reef shimmering, a single bird following you for a bit before deciding you're not interesting enough. You settle in adjusting the sail, feeling the canoe's mood. It rides the swell like it's already rehearsed this part, like it's following a rhythm you've only just started to hear. By afternoon, the clouds grow bold. They gather low and fast, their bellies dark and heavy with thoughts. You sniff the air, which now smells like wet rock and decisions. You brace yourself, tightening the ropes, adjusting your weight, as the first gust slaps the sail. The rain arrives not like a drizzle, but like a drummer who missed their cue and is now making up for lost time. Water pelts you sideways, stinging your arms, soaking your mat, and sending the canoe into a brief dance that feels less like sailing and more like improvisational panic. You laugh loudly, partly because this is ridiculous, partly because you're still afloat. The swells grow steeper, now crossing at odd angles. You lie back, yes, in the middle of a storm, because that's how you read them. You close your eyes, rain dripping into your ears, and feel the rhythms. One long swell, one short, one strange, a third wave, fast, choppy, bouncing off something nearby, not imaginary, not random, reflected swell, which means something solid, something big. Maybe not land, but something. You sit up, wipe your face, and squint through the rain. Nothing. You wait. The clouds shift, and then for just 1 second, the horizon clears. And there it is. Not close, not clear, but real. The faint, stubborn outline of another island, one you didn't expect. One that didn't appear on anyone's map but has been sending messages all along. The wind steadies again. The waves fall into line, and your canoe turns not sharply, but with intent, and you follow. The rain dies down just as quickly as it came, like it realized it forgot something back at the last island and hurried off in embarrassment. You're left soaked, shivering slightly, but grinning like you just passed an exam you didn't study for but somehow nailed anyway. The sky opens back up, revealing a fresh patch of late afternoon blue streaked with orange, your favorite kind, the kind that makes the ocean look like molten bronze. The storm was short, but just long enough to test you. And maybe that was the point. You adjust the sail and let your arms rest. The wind has evened out now, brushing your cheeks like a soft nudge forward. The waves beneath your canoe are no longer chaotic. They've chosen a rhythm, like they've agreed on a destination and just want you to keep up. The outline of the new island is growing, slowly, as all things worth discovering do. It's still distant, but the shape is real jagged and steep, with a high ridge at the center like a dragon's back. This one feels different, older, not in the timeline way, in the attitude way, like the island isn't particularly interested in being found, but is mildly amused that you managed to do it anyway. You reach for your stick chart and glance at your carvings. You trace the pattern of the swells with your finger, then glance ahead again. You don't know the island's name, You're not even sure it has a name. You kind of love that. As the sun dips lower, you feel something strange in your chest. Not fear, not doubt. Just the quiet buzz of something big. Not big, like loud. Big, like meaningful. Because this feels like the end of something. Not the end, just an end. The final piece of this particular leg of the story. You're not chasing survival anymore, or even curiosity. You're chasing connection. And whatever's waiting on that island, it might have the answer to a question you didn't realize you were asking. But the ocean's not letting you glide in easy. As you approach the island's windward side, the swells grow taller, rolling hills instead of the calm plains you'd been riding. Your canoe takes the waves with effort. Not struggle, just focus. Every creak and flex in the wood reminds you that you're asking it to do something that most people would need a rescue helicopter for. And then there's the reef. Of course there's a reef, always is, but this one is tricky. Narrow breaks, no obvious passage. Waves curling over coral like they're guarding treasure. You slow your approach, let the canoe drift. You scan the shoreline, the cliffs rising beyond, and search for the signs changes in wave behavior lines of foam that curve away instead of crashing in. Then you spot it, a dip, a small V-shaped shadow where the swell softens and slides and smooth. That's your way in. You adjust the sail, steady the rudder, and aim the canoe. Your heartbeat quickens. You talk to your boat under your breath, something between encouragement and negotiation. One more time, friend. Just one more clean entry. No showing off, no heroics. The canoe glides forward. The reef roars on both sides, but your brake holds. Water rushes under you fast foaming, pulling you in with the kind of grace you can't earn, only accept. And then, stillness. You're inside the reef. The lagoon is wide, deep, and blue in a way that makes you question whether any other color was ever real. You exhale hard. You've arrived. Again, you don't rush to land. Instead, you let the canoe drift a bit, letting it cool off from the sprint. You watch the island. This one isn't lush and palm-covered. It's rough, rocky in parts. Trees that look like they had to fight to grow. No huts, no trails, no friendly fish darting by to say hello. But the energy, it's thick. Not dangerous, just ancient. You can almost hear it. Welcome. But speak carefully. You bring the canoe to a small curve of beach tucked beneath a ridge. Black sand, sharp shells. Not the usual kind of pretty. More like dramatic, theatrical pretty. The kind that probably charges admission. You pull the canoe ashore, secure it with a stone anchor, and climb out, legs wobbling but proud. You've done this dance enough times now to know that feeling exhaustion edged with wonder. The moment your feet hit the sand, something clicks like a lock turning. You don't know why, but you do know this island matters. You can feel it. You don't need a story to tell you that, because you're standing in one. You don't explore right away. You just stand there barefoot on gritty black sand, wind at your back, ocean humming softly behind you, and let the island size you up. Because that's what it feels like you're being watched this time. Not in a creepy eyes in the bushes kind of way, more like the land itself is giving you a once-over. And you let it, because you've learned something out here. You don't arrive shouting. You don't march inland like you own the place. You wait. You listen. You show the island who you are, not by talking, but by being. So you sit, just like you did on that first island, cross-legged, quiet, patient. And after a while, the island responds. A breeze swirls up from inland cooler than the ocean air. It smells of moss stone, something sweet like ripe fruit just out of reach. It's an invitation, maybe, or a test. Either way, your heart says, go. You rise, grab your charm, this one, the spiral you carved yourself, the one you promised would only travel to important places, and tuck it into your sash. You take nothing else, no paddle, no blade, just you, your bare feet, and the slow breath of the land guiding your steps. The jungle here isn't soft. It's not the green tunneled hush of the last island. It's wilder, denser. Branches twist like they were grown in a hurry and never quite finished. Trees creak, rocks jut from the undergrowth like ribs, but the path, if you can call it that, emerges as you walk. It's not marked, it's just there. Slight dips in the earth, ferns that seem to step aside, a rhythm in the shadows. You climb slowly. The ground rises in waves beneath your feet, echoing the sea you just crossed. It feels deliberate, like the island wants you to walk uphill, like there's something waiting at the top. You wipe sweat from your brow, swat away a beetle the size of a bar of soap, and press on. Near the ridge, the forest thins. The light changes, and then you see it, a stone platform. Not carved, not ornate, just flat slabs arranged in a wide circle, ancient enough to be cracked moss-covered, partially sunk into the hill, but still standing, still whole. At the center, a single bowl, empty. You step into the circle like stepping onto a stage. No audience, no lights, just the sound of wind rustling through old trees and your own breathing. You kneel beside the bowl, trace its rim. It's warm from the sun. You place your charm inside it gently, and you speak, not loudly, not in ceremony, just in your voice. You say your name. You say where you're from. You say how many days you've been traveling, not exactly, but close enough. You say thank you. You say nothing else, and somehow it's enough, because the wind rises and the trees sway in answer, and your heart settles like it just finished a long sentence. You don't need a sign. You feel it. This is the end. Not the end of the story, just this chapter, this journey. You stay there until the sun begins to drop behind the ridge, then slowly, quietly, you walk back down the slope. At the shoreline, the canoe is exactly where you left it, bobbing gently. You place your hand on the bow. It feels like coming home. You sit beside it and start a small fire. The night closes in around you, soft, welcoming, not with fanfare or finale, just stars appearing one by one like a lullaby being whispered from the sky. You lie back in the sand, close your eyes, and for the first time, the ocean is silent, because it knows you're not listening anymore. You're sleeping. You're safe. You're whole. And somewhere out beyond the reef, the waves continue their endless, invisible conversation, waiting for the next navigator, waiting for the next dream. So now, as your breathing slows and your eyes grow heavy, picture the sea under moonlight wide and silver, still and knowing. Your canoe rocks gently in the shallows. The fire has faded to amber. The stars overhead are no longer maps. They're memories, distant lights of all the places you've been, all the people you've become. You did it. You crossed an ocean that offered no signs, only questions. You found land not by chasing, but by listening. by trusting the hush between waves. And now, here on this quiet shore, you're exactly where you were always meant to be. There's no rush to leave, no pressure to explore further. You have time. The island will wait. The ocean will wait. You're not lost. You're not wandering. You're resting. And as your dreams drift in on a soft tide, may you feel the same pulse beneath you, that ancient rhythm that guided your journey, that still rocks the world in its sleep. May your spirit sail gently tonight on warm wind and patient waves. May your name be known by the sea, not because you shouted it, but because you listened. And now, let the stars keep watch. Let the reef guard the silence. And let sleep find you easily, like an island rising out of the dark. Good night.